first step in making the worms is to make their two main colors, that being a light tan and a brown. Once those two main colors are made, I separate the light tan into 6 different balls with a little bit extra for any other tan stuff that I need in the future. I then make the bodies by making a cylinder and then like a cone type thing at the bottom, and then I squish them down onto the ground. Now that all the worm bodies are made, I add a mouth to the first worm. This gets indented into the face, with one of the sides being more open. This opening then gets some white clay to look kind of like teeth. Why a worm has teeth, I don't know. But I then add a coil around the mouth to make more defined lips. These lips then get blended into the face to remove any visual seam besides the actual mouth itself. I then add 2 flattened balls of brown clay to make the eyes. And after that, I add 2 balls of white clay, significantly smaller than the brown. And then using the same brown as the eyes, I make the eyebrows. Now that I'm done with the face, I can start to make the baseball bat using a significantly lighter brown. This just gets rolled and pinched and poked until it's the correct baseball bat shape. I did spend a lot of time on the bottom part since that is a little bit more challenging. After this, I make a hand so that the bat is actually held by something. And then once the hand is wrapped around the bat, I have to make the person who gets hit by the bat. To make the worm, I first change the worm shape to more closely match where it's actually getting hit by the bat by changing the actual cone bottom part to be on the front side and by pushing the head forward and the body back. I then I poke in a mouth and indent it, and then I indent and cover the entire mouth with the brown clay that I used on the eyes before. I then add eyes in the same way that I did for the first one with brown, then the white balls, and then once I had the white balls, I add eyebrows, except this in more of a pain kind of pose. Then I push these off to the side and start work on the third one. The third one gets a smaller but similar mouth to the one from last time, coated in the brown. Then, once the mouth is coated, I give it the same eyes as the first one, except with this one, instead of having the same eyebrows as the last one, I give it more afraid or worried eyebrows. After this, I make coils of maroon and light yellow. These coils then get wrapped around the ball of yellow clay that I'm currently making, starting with a light yellow coil, then a maroon coil, and after that, another light yellow coil. To make this an actually holy hand grenade, I make the religious imagery on the top. Once this gets poked, prodded, and pulled enough so that it actually looks like what it is supposed to, this gets placed on the top of the grenade and then pressed in so that it doesn't immediately fall off. Now, working on the fourth worm, I indent a mouth similar to the first one, except this time with no opening, and then I add the eyes that I've done for the same 3 before it, with the brown and then the white. Once the eyes and the mouth are done, I can start to work on the rocket launcher, starting with just a small greenish rod and then a green half circle attached to the back of it. This green half circle gets blended in and then hollowed out at the bottom point. Then, after this, I add a sphere that gets made to look like 2 cones, I guess, and then with a little indent in the top, and then it gets attached to the other end of the green rod. I then add a small green piece to the top of the front part, and then a black worm around the same approximate place. Once the worm is added, and the shape of the rocket launcher is refined, I can add a handle using some brown and gray clays. These get somewhat combined and then placed onto the bottom of the rocket launcher, and then I added some eyebrows at a somewhat flat angle to make this worm look kind of angry and upset. I then make two hands, one placed at the back part of the rocket launcher and one on the handle. This then gets placed into possession of the worm, ready to point at someone. But not really though, not really, no. After this, I can make the person's opponent. This person has practically the same mouth, eyes, and eyebrows as the previous worm. But this worm has a grenade, so I first make a single hand to hold the grenade, then a green ball with a gray worm on top of it that gets squished, and then the grenade goes in the hands, and then the hand goes into the possession of the worm. Now, this next worm starts by getting squished to the unsquished position from its original standing, and then I add a ovular gray shape to its back. Then I add a cone of blue to the top part of that gray, and then a maroon worm where the two meet. Then to actually make this a jetpack, I add two cylinders to the sides of the gray, and then once I have those attached, I add two maroon half circles to the bottom of the two cylinders. After this, I give the jetpack a black safety harness so that it's safe. And then I make two hands that will be holding the controls. The controls are basically just maroon cylinders with buttons on top that then get attached to the body with, after this, circles attached to the bottoms to make it look cooler. Once this is done, I can add practically the exact same face as the last two have had, with just a mouth, the same exact eyes, and then except this time, it doesn't have eyebrows. I think because I forgot. Then I can make the base. The base just starts out as a bunch of aluminum foil. It gets added together, poked, prodded, pressed until it looks right. But that takes a while. So I'm gonna show this all to you and just keep talking over it, even though it's not in the script. Fun fact, this is the first scripted clay video. Now that this is close to the proper shape, I can finally add some gray-ish clay to cover the base. And then I can add some more clay to any areas that may not be able to actually have a worm stand, as there might not be enough room. Once all these areas got covered, I baked it and then added another kind of gray because I still wasn't very sure if the worms could stand and I didn't have enough of the other one. And also, I wanted to make it look smoother. Basically, I just forgot to actually texture it at the end and I wanted a better color, so it looks like this now. Once it got this recovered, I added some extra clay to some areas that I still thought worms couldn't stand on, and then I actually added the worms, starting with the guy hitting the other person with the bat, and the guy who got hit by it, the guy who dropped the holy hand grenade, the guy holding a rocket launcher, the guy holding an actual grenade, and then I add in some dynamite, which is just some red, and then a coil of black on the top of it, and then I add a bunch of translucent colors to make the actual stuff coming out of the jetpack since I didn't do this earlier. I split it at the top, and then shape it until it looks properly like a line of jetpack. Then this gets added to the bottom part of the jetpack, and then once it's properly shaped, I add this to the base, and once it's added to the base, it's done!